Honda, the man who smelled oil and defied a nation. They told him no. They told him he wasn't educated enough, that a sixth-grade education wasn't enough to build anything that mattered. They told him he was too loud, too stubborn, too reckless. And eventually, the government told him he wasn't even allowed to try. But one man didn't listen. Because long before the world knew the name Honda, a barefoot boy was kneeling in the dirt of a rural Japanese village, breathing in the smell of oil dripping from a strange foreign machine. And to him, it smelled like destiny. This is the story of Soichiro Honda, a man with no formal education who defied the Japanese government, out-engineered the biggest automakers on Earth, and built cars not because they were practical, but because they made his heart race. November 17, 1906, Komyo Village, Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. At the foot of Mount Fuji, Soichiro Honda was born to a blacksmith father who worked with fire and iron. Young Soichiro had no toys. His playground was his father's forge. While other children played, Soichiro watched sparks fly from the anvil. He learned that creation was loud, dirty, and nothing came out perfect the first time. You hammered, adjusted, failed, and started over. This lesson would define his entire life. Then one day, when Soichiro was about 8 years old, a sound echoed through the village. Something mechanical. Something alive. A Ford Model T was coming down the road. Soichiro dropped everything and ran. His bare feet slapped against the dirt as he chased this roaring, rattling, impossible machine. When the car stopped, he dropped to his hands and knees and pressed his face close to the ground beneath the engine. Oil was dripping. He inhaled deeply. Years later, when Honda Motor Company was building millions of vehicles, Soichiro would say, that smell was the most beautiful perfume in the world. School bored him completely. He wasn't stupid. He simply couldn't see the point. Why memorize dates when there were machines to understand? At 15, he left school. 6 years of formal education. That's all. In 1922, at 16, Soichiro moved to Tokyo alone with almost no money and found work at Art Shakai, an automobile repair shop. For 6 months, he wasn't allowed to touch a single vehicle. He swept floors, he cleaned tools, he watched and learned. After 6 months, the owner finally let him touch an engine. Soichiro's hands were shaking. He was terrible at first. He made mistakes, but he learned faster than any apprentice they'd ever seen. Within 2 years, he was the best mechanic in the shop. In 1928, at 21, Soichiro opened his own repair branch, his own business. He was becoming successful, and then he nearly destroyed it all racing cars. In 1936, at the All Japan Speed Rally, Honda was racing a car he'd built himself. He was in the lead, and then the car flipped. Multiple times. When it stopped, Soichiro was unconscious. Fractured skull, broken bones. His brother Benjiro, his riding mechanic, was dead. The doctors told him he should never race again, that he needed to be careful, cautious, sensible. Soichiro Honda heard all of this, and for a while he listened. But the crash had taught him something. Life was short. You could die doing something you loved, or die slowly doing something safe. Either way, you die. So he might as well die building things that mattered. In the late 1930s, Honda became obsessed with manufacturing piston rings for Toyota. He had no experience, no formal engineering education, but he had determination. He failed repeatedly. Toyota rejected his attempts. Most people would have given up. Honda enrolled in night classes at Hamamatsu School of Technology. He was in his 30s, sitting with teenagers covered in machine oil, taking notes furiously. After 2 years, he finally produced piston rings Toyota accepted. He built a factory, started mass production, and then World War II destroyed everything. 1944. American B-29 bombers destroyed his factory. Fire consumed everything. Honda stood in the ruins. Years of work, gone. He started rebuilding. Then on January 13, 1945, the Mikawa earthquake struck. The factory collapsed completely. This time he sold the remains to Toyota for scrap metal prices. 45,000 yen. Everyone thought he'd given up. They didn't understand. Honda wasn't quitting. He was shedding skin. August 1945. Japan surrendered. The country was in ruins. Transportation virtually non-existent. Honda was 40 years old. No factory, no business, no clear future. But he had an idea. During the war, the Japanese military had used small portable generators to power radios. Now surplus generators were flooding the black market. Honda bought as many as he could find, and he attached them to bicycles. The result was absurd. A bicycle with a tiny sputtering engine. Loud, shaking violently. Smelling terrible because Honda was using turpentine-diluted fuel. He called it the bata bata because of the put sound, and it worked. In October 1946, Honda founded the Honda Technical Research Institute in a small wooden shack. They assembled motorized bicycles by hand. Demand was insane, but the surplus generators were running out. So Honda began designing his own engine. 50 cubic centimeters, 1 horsepower. And this is when everything changed. In 1949, a businessman named Takeo Fujisawa walked into Honda's workshop. Fujisawa understood money, marketing, management. Everything Honda was terrible at. They made a handshake deal. Honda would handle all engineering. Fujisawa would handle all business. Neither would interfere in the other's domain. In September 1948, they officially founded Honda Motor Company Limited. Their first product was the Dream Type A motorcycle with Honda's own engine producing 1 horsepower. By 1952, Honda Motor Company was the leading motorcycle manufacturer in Japan. They were successful, growing fast, making money. And Soichiro Honda was bored. He wanted to build cars. 1955, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, made an announcement. Japan didn't need any more automobile manufacturers. They wanted to consolidate the industry. Toyota, Nissan, Isuzu. That's enough. Motorcycle companies should stick to motorcycles. For most companies, this would have been final. Soichiro Honda didn't listen. In the late 1950s, MITI's restrictions became explicit. They told Honda directly, don't build cars, focus on motorcycles. Honda's response was to storm into MITI offices, furious, shouting that innovation couldn't be planned by bureaucrats. The officials were shocked. Nobody challenged their authority like this. But Honda understood something. If he didn't build a car now before restrictions became law, he might never get another chance. So he made a decision that would either make or destroy him. He would build a car immediately, before anyone could stop him. And not just one car, 3 vehicles, all at once. And unveil them at the Tokyo Motor Show where the entire industry would see them. By the time MITI realized what was happening, it would be too late. You can't unbuild a car. 1960, Honda Motor Company had just become the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer. But in a secret corner of their research facility, a small team was working on something that could destroy everything. They were designing Honda's first automobile. The team had 0 experience building cars. They designed thousands of motorcycles, but cars? Everything was new. They decided to start with something practical, a small pickup truck. But this is where Honda's motorcycle DNA created something extraordinary. Instead of a simple truck engine, they designed a high-performance 4-cylinder engine. The T360. 4 cylinders, double overhead camshafts, 4 carburetors, and it could rev to 9,000 PM. 9,000. This was 1963. Most truck engines redlined at 3,000 RPM. Honda built a delivery truck with a racing engine. It produced 30 horsepower from just 356 cubic centimeters. Why? Why would you over-engineer a simple pickup truck? Because Soichiro Honda didn't know how to build anything half-heartedly. October 1962, the Tokyo Motor Show. When the covers came off, the entire industry stopped. 3 vehicles. The T360 truck, The S360 sports car. The S500 sports car, not concepts. Production-ready vehicles. The government officials were not amused. This was exactly what MITI had tried to prevent. But Honda had done it. The vehicles existed. In August 1963, the T360 went on sale, the first Honda automobile ever sold, and it was a success. Small business owners loved it. Affordable, economical, and surprisingly fun. The high-revving engine became legendary. People called it impractical, over-engineered, ridiculous. Honda didn't care. He cared that it was alive, that it had character. October 19th, 1963. 4 months after the T360, Honda unleashed something completely impractical. The S500 sports car, a tiny red roadster with a 531 cubic centimeter inline 4 producing 44 horsepower. More impressively, this engine could rev to 9,500 ERPM, unheard of for a production car in 1963. But here's where things got truly unusual. Honda didn't know how to build traditional automotive drivetrains. They'd never manufactured differentials or drive shafts. But they knew chains. So the S500 used actual chain drive to power the rear wheels. Like a motorcycle. Automotive engineers were baffled. Chains? On a car? That's primitive. But it worked beautifully. The car weighed just 725 kilograms. With virtually no weight, it was genuinely quick. Top speed, 130 kilometers per hour. More importantly, it handled beautifully. Independent suspension, rack and pinion steering. But the most important thing about the S500 wasn't its specifications. It was its philosophy. Honda could have built a sensible small car, something practical that would sell to families. Instead, they built a sports car designed purely for driving pleasure. This told the world something crucial. Honda wasn't here to make cheap transportation. They were here to make machines for people who love to drive. In 1964 came the S600 with 57 horsepower. Then in 1966, the S800 with 70 horsepower, exceeding 160 kilometers per hour. These early sports cars established Honda's DNA, high-revving engines, racing technology, focus on driving pleasure. Every Honda that came after would trace its lineage back to that chain-driven little sports car. By the late 1960s, Honda had established itself in Japan, but Japan was a small market. If Honda wanted to become global, they needed America. This seemed impossible. America was the land of V8s and massive cars. Americans liked big, powerful, loud. Honda was proposing to sell them cars smaller than some motorcycles. Everyone said it would fail. In 1969, Honda officially entered the American market with the N600. The very first Honda imported to America had VIN, N600-10000001. Serial 1. Painted sun orange. Bright, optimistic, impossible to ignore. The American press didn't know what to make of it. Car and Driver called it an automotive curiosity. American consumers looked at it and laughed. So small. The engine sounded like a lawnmower. But something interesting happened. The people who bought them loved them. Not because they were exciting, because they worked, every single time. In 1969, American cars were not reliable. They broke down. They rusted. The N600 started every time. Didn't leak oil, didn't need repairs. You just drove it. People who bought one as a joke found themselves recommending it to friends. It's not exciting, but it never breaks. This was Honda's secret weapon. Not performance, not style, reliability. Serial 1 became legendary. A small orange car that proved Honda could succeed in America by being better engineered. Sales were modest at first, but Honda was building something more valuable than profits. They were building trust. 1970. The United States faced an environmental crisis. Air pollution was choking cities. Congress passed the Clean Air Act, setting strict emission standards for 1975. Detroit panicked. General Motors, Ford, Chrysler all said, "Impossible. We cannot meet these standards. We need more time." Their solution was the catalytic converter. Expensive, complex. Meanwhile, in Japan, Soichiro Honda heard about these standards. His response wasn't panic. It was excitement. This was an engineering challenge, and Honda loved challenges. His team developed the CVCC engine, compound vortex-controlled combustion, a clever design that created a richer fuel mixture in a small pre-chamber, igniting a leaner mixture in the main chamber. The result? Dramatically lower emissions without a catalytic converter. When Honda announced they'd met the Clean Air Act standards, Detroit was skeptical. Ed Cole, president of General Motors, publicly mocked Honda. "It might work on a toy motorcycle engine, but it'll never work on a real car." Soichiro Honda didn't argue. He bought a Chevrolet Impala, shipped it to Japan, and installed a Honda CVCC engine in it. The result? Cleaner emissions than GM's own engines. No catalytic converter, no excuses. Just engineering. Honda invited American journalists to witness the test. They couldn't believe it. A Japanese motorcycle company had out-engineered the largest automaker in the world. GM's response? Silence. The 1973 Civic with CVCC engine launched in America just as the oil crisis hit. Small, efficient, clean, reliable. It was exactly what America needed at exactly the right moment. The Civic became a phenomenon, not just a car, a cultural shift. Soichiro Honda retired in 1973. The same year the Civic changed the world. He didn't sit in boardrooms, he visited dealerships, he shook hands with mechanics. Because that's where he came from. He died in 1991 at 84 years old. By then, Honda Motor Company was producing millions of vehicles annually. But he never forgot that moment as an 8-year-old boy, kneeling in the dirt, breathing in oil from a Ford Model T. That smell of destiny. Today, when you see a Honda Civic or Accord, you're not just seeing a commuter car. You're seeing a blue mini truck with a race engine, a chain-driven sports car, a bicycle with a radio motor. You're seeing what happens when one man with a 6th grade education refuses to accept no. When bureaucrats say, "You can't," engineers say, "Watch me." When the government says, "Stick to motorcycles," you build cars. When Detroit says it's impossible, you prove them wrong. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you that passion beats permission, then share it. Subscribe. Leave a comment. And remember, the world doesn't change because someone followed the rules. It changes because someone smelled oil and chased it. Because someone grabbed an axe at 4 a.m. and tore down a wall. Because someone refused to stay in their lane. What's your oil? What's your wall? What are they telling you that you can't do? Maybe it's time to stop listening. Thanks for watching. Now go build something.